I agree to Taco judging.
I don't want
Oh my
Taco.
god,
Can
Oppo,
I-
just
can I have
answer
Akino?
the question, please,
We can have
bro.
Akino as judge.
Sakazuki can moderate. I don't ever moderate.
Yeah, Sakazuki can moderate. We can have Akino as judge.
Okay.
I bet. So
Is
say your
Akino
position.
is he in
We're
audio?
gonna send a recording, but can you say your position for the recording?
Actually, I'd like to tell Akino's here.
Oh my god,
Dude, what the fuck?
Saruki, can you DM Akino? I have him blocked.
Yo, that's crazy. Me too, because that dude Akino go crazy for his little
We can
ego.
just have
Man.
we can just have Akino and Sakazuki.
Would you be fine with that, Oppo? So so Infinity, are you saying you have Akino and Sakazuki as judges, and Sakazuki will just
Akino
moderate while he's here? Okay.
Yeah.
Oppo, since one of the judges is here, would you be fine with starting?
No, without Akino.
Okay.
Oh
Just get him. Because here's the thing. I very highly doubt that Akino's going to judge this debate.
Okay, so who else would you agree to? We can agree to Sakazuki and someone else. We can agree to Sakazuki and Tomlin.
Absolutely not. See if
would you agree?
See if Akino will agree. See if Akino, because I'd be very comfortable with Akino.
No, look at the time. Look at the time. You will not agree. Yes, school tomorrow.
Yeah.
He wouldn't agree to do it immediately, at least. But would you agree to Sakazuki and
Reaper?
And he would not agree to Reaper.
Okay. Toxic?
We could do Sakazuki for immediate judgment and have Akino judge the recording.
Okay, that's what he was saying. That's what he was saying.
All right, yeah, sure. We can have Sakazuki moderate as well. So, say your position for the recording.
We're debating HY Vision versus Femto, high tier crossverse.
Yeah, what's your position? That's the topic. That's your position in the topic.
Wait, hold on.
My position is that.
Wait, hold on. What's your question, Sakazuki?
Who does Oppo have?
Okay, so who do you guys both have? Again,
I have HOI Vision.
Okay, so you said HOI Vision? Okay, so HOI Vision, Oppo versus
actually
Comp
I'll
Femto.
use Comp Vision. We'll go with Comp Vision. That's cool.
You can use Comp Marvel, bro. I don't care. You can use Comp Fiction.
Cool. You want to scale first, Infinity?
Yes, I do, but let's wait for it to be announced first.
Okay, that's cool. That works.
Bro, who in here watched Whack Fu as a kid? Anybody know what that is? Ping me if you do, because if you do, I will like kiss you or something, bro. Whack Fu is like.
Tell me when this.
Whack Fu is.
Yeah.
Swear to fucking first episode had tingles on my spine, nigga.
Okay, so it's announced. Say your position for the recording, Oppo, just for clarification.
We're just seeing who scales high.
No, that's your premise. So is your position going to be that your character wins by virtue of outscaling?
I'm outscaling my character.
No, not currently. I'm asking, is your position Oppo? I'm asking anyways. I'm asking,
my position is that I'm going to outscale your character.
Oppo, stop.
My position is that I'm going to outscale.
Sakazuki, can you moderate? Sakazuki, can you moderate? Sakazuki, can you moderate? Sakazuki, can you moderate?
What is moderate? What is moderate?
Moderate. That is a word.
Fucking word. Say moderate. Then why are you trying to sound like a fucking smart ass?
I'm not trying to sound like a hard ass.
You goofy as shit. You goofy as shit. Hurry up.
Both of you shut up.
What are you doing? Sakazuki, mute him. Like, damn.
Shut up.
Okay, so anyways, that is your premise. If you're going to say that your character wins by virtue of outscaling, that will be your position.
That is not what I said. I said I'm going to out. My position is that I'm going to outscale your character.
Yes, so I'm asking you, does your character win
that's
by
my
virtue
position.
of that? Shut up. I'm asking you a question.
Move on.
Sakazuki, are you going to moderate or allow him to keep cutting me off? What is wrong with you? Oh my god. No, your mic's
Saka, are you on phone, bro?
I ain't gonna lie, no, fuck that.
I'm on phone and I can't get on computer.
I'm not gonna moderate, but here, hold on. Do you guys agree to Reaper to moderate?
Yes, bro.
Not judge?
Yes, anybody to moderate, because
so just to clarify, Oppo, Reaper is not judging; he's only moderating.
You I don't agree to Reaper moderating. I don't.
Okay, Sakazuki said he's gonna get on his PC. Hold on. Wait for Sakazuki.
Can we play the Jeopardy theme song? Wait. Where is that shit?
Don't even worry, Reaper. Like, niggas retarded.
Have Taco moderate.
I don't care to have Taco moderate.
Yo, I'm famous. I commented.
Oh my gosh.
Wait,
page.
why is Tamaki up here?
Bro, chill.
Okay. Do you guys agree that Tamaki
are you there? No, Sakazuki's here.
Let Taco moderate. I'm down.
Sakazuki, are you there? Sakazuki, are you there?
I'm here, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so can you mute him for 2 seconds, please?
Give me one. I'm literally loading my Discord.
Oh, okay. By here, I meant to
God.
say it. I meant to ask if you were on your PC, but okay. I'm not using the self-reference game, Reaper.
If what I utter is true, then Reaper is gay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm asking you, are you going to say that your character wins by virtue of outscaling? Is that going to be your position?
I told you what my position is, and I'm not repeating it. I told
you
you what my
said your
position is, and I'm not
position was that
repeating
your
it. So now
character
you can move
outscales.
on.
I'm asking you. You said that your position was that your character outscales. However, I'm asking you, does that entail your character winning? Yes or no? Just for clarity, I want to understand your position.
I'm not a winning losing label on it. I'm simply outscaling your character in terms of the tiering system that's on the fandom for versus battle.
Yeah, so we're actually not going to be appealing to a tiering system. That's something that we're not going to be doing. I don't understand. Oh my God, Sakazuki. Oh my God.
Hey, Sakazuki, can I finish clarifying my point?
Bro, let him finish. Bro, you just made a claim, Infinity. Let him talk now. I'm not just gonna keep muting him.
I didn't make a claim.
You just made a claim.
Question isn't a claim. It's two different things.
You just said we're not gonna be using.
I asked him if he was using position.
Wow, this is
Go ahead, Oppo. Go ahead, Oppo.
The position that I'm defending is that my composite vision outscales your composite Femto according to the tiering system that we're going to be using from versus Battle Wiki.
Yeah, so in response to that, it is not the case that we're going to be appealing to some random metric or tiering system that you're trying to propose, but instead we can use logical deduction to say, well, my character is above yours because my character is 5-dimensional and your character is 3-dimensional. That would be an example.
If it's according to the tiering system, sure.
I don't care about any random or arbitrary metric you're trying to propose. Like I said, that we can use logical deduction. I'm not trying to
propose random or arbitrary metric. It's actually been the baseline for the cross-verse for years now, Infinity.
Yeah, it would be arbitrary in perspective of me. I don't care if it's been a baseline.
It isn't an arbitrary perspective.
Shut up. Sakazuki.
Bro, I'm not. Bro, we're not gonna.
Yes, we're doing talking stick. This nigga cannot.
If anybody's trying to go off of an arbitrary percentage, you're trying to go off of no parameters, no rules, no baselines, nothing. You're trying to say, oh, are you going to mute him? I was muted. No, are you going to mute him?
You were muted, Infinity. You're not muted once.
Anyways. So once again, I said arbitrary in perspective of me. I never said the entire community. I don't care if it's been the baseline for the crossfit community. I'm saying that, which by the way, arbitrary is random. I'm saying I don't care to appeal to any tiering system. It doesn't matter if it's arbitrary or if it's something that's been set up within the community for ages. Like I said, we can appeal to logical deduction. I can deduce that my character who is abstract, meaning that he's atemporal spatial, would be above your character who is 3-dimensional. They have 3 axes, dumbass. So you have no justification for why we should appeal to that random or just any tiering system at all.
I have a justification for appealing to the tiering system. The reason we appeal to the tiering system is because it provides actual period and like X's out type of writing that you're trying to be doing. Like what you're saying, it really goes by the tiering system. 3D is below 5D. Yes, that's correct. Abstract existence is a thing in the tiering system. Yes, that's correct. It's just the tiering system incorporates parameters to avoid rattery. That's the
Sakazuki. Yeah, so actually,
we can ask for
bro, Sakazuki, like I let him finish it. He keeps ask for Sakazuki. No, Sakazuki, damn, bro.
Just let him. Let him respond. Just let him respond.
Thank you. So in response to that, it is not the case that I'm giving some type of random arbitrary criteria, but instead, logical deduction is also a criteria. All we have to do is explain why logically our character will be above your character. For example, X is above Y because my character has an absolute ability in comparison to your character who only has fire manipulation. That would be a logical deduction and a logically valid and sound. Shut up. A logically valid and sound argument. You saying that, well, tiering systems also use logical deduction. I'm not denying that tiering system can possibly use logical deduction.
Not what I said.
Shut up.
That's not what I said.
No, Sakazuki, can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Oh, he's calling a strong man of his Infinity. He's calling a strong man.
I'm not done with my argument. Shut up. I don't care if you call that
debate at all.
This guy cannot debate.
Oh my God. Both of you guys shut up. All
right, go ahead.
You don't know how to fucking moderate, bro.
No, this is just fucking up the debate, but whatever.
Chill. Okay, so once again, I don't care about you making the claim that, well, tiering systems rule out any type of rivalry. once again, if it is not logically valid, which would be a right argument, that means it's intellectually dishonest. Therefore, by virtue of some type of system, it will be logically invalid or logically unsound, and tells it is not logical deduction necessarily. So what you just said is a non sequitur. You have no justification as to why we should appeal to a specific tiering system.
Got Oppo.
Again, you're incorrect. The justification is the structure that the tiering system provides. It's also we can go by this we can go by this loosely logically deductive system, and I'm not saying and for the reduction isn't the only way you can come to a conclusion, especially in a cross-verse conversation. I hope you understand.
Yeah, I never said that deduction was the only way you can infer.
Okay, because you
appealing to deduction. I'm clarifying. No, like I let you finish. Like, what is
you actually said that the method you wanted to go by was logical deduction.
And you take turns, not Kazuki, bro. Oh my god,
dude. Okay, if he lets you finish his whole statement,
he literally finished. Are you dying? He's the one that finished. I was speaking. I was speaking.
5 minutes. It's fucking ridiculous.
Bro, Infinity. Wait, hold up, Oppo. Wait, chill, bro. Infinity. You literally speak for I'm not even trying to be biased here. You know I'm unbiased. You literally are speaking for 3 to 4 minutes, and then you just Oppo speaks for 30 seconds, and then you want him muted each time, right? That's not what's gonna happen. I'm going to let the debate progress. If someone is uselessly interjecting, then yes, I will mute him. If he's just finishing his initial point, I'm not just gonna mute him every time.
Oh my god!
As I was saying,
he wasn't. Hold on. Let me speak to the moderator. Actually,
we're never gonna get through, bro.
Up. I'm trying to speak to the moderator.
We're never gonna get through this.
Shut up! Like he's doing it right now. He's not. He's not.
All right, okay, I muted. Okay, Infinity.
Okay, Sakazuki. I understand that there's time limits for each. Or I understand that I take a long time to speak within that instance. I'm saying that he literally finished talking, and as soon as I try to respond, he literally just starts cutting me off, and he's not muted.
From what I just listened to, he was literally giving a sentence. He literally was going into another sentence, and then you just cut in. That's what you did.
Not true at all, but it doesn't matter. We can progress. Anyways. So one, I never said
let him finish, bro. It was his. It was his turn to.
Are you done, Oppo? Yes or no? Are you done?
Can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Go.
Okay. The reason that I clarified that induction is especially important in crossfers is because if you want to get uber technical, you want to be a contrarian and everything, then I'm actually saying that we go by logical deduction. Neither of us will ever fucking reach a conclusion. Logical deduction barely works in crossfers. So your method is retarded because we naturally need to use induction in fiction just due to the incorporation of possibilities in general. So if you want to be technical, yeah, we can go by go by loose inductive standards, yes, but not logical.
Yeah. So, anyways, I never said that. I never said that the cross lines. I never said that the cross lines will be limited to logical deduction. You're strawmanning me. What I said was an example of something we can use outside of a tiering system specifically would be logical deduction. We can use logical induction. We can use logical abduction. It doesn't matter as long as your conclusion is logically valid and logically sound to get your character above mine, Oppo. So what you just said is not an argument against what I said, and you calling it loose is not an argument as to why it's loose. So we can conclude, dumbass, and induction doesn't only deal with possibilities, but instead it uses possibilities to infer some type of likelihood for an unknown possibility or unknown variable. So yes, we can conclude.
I'm not ready to conclude, actually. You said that we could use logical deduction as a possible guideline for our scaling. I disagree with you. I want you to try and scale something off of logical deduction, and I will do a sliver of a possibility of.
I got you.
Yeah, you technically have to use induction. There is no logical deduction in fiction because there are actions in fiction. There is no objectivity in fiction. It's fiction.
Okay, so the reason why that wouldn't be the case is because all objectivity is something that has correspondence with reality, the same as with relative to fiction, we have correspondence with the fictional setting. So let's say that Goku beats Naruto. That would be an objective fact. Shut up. Bro, like I let him finish. No. You see this.
I muted him. Stop crying and finish.
Nobody's crying, dumbass. You can see I'm not crying. Anyways, so the same as relative to fiction, something that has correspondence with the fictional setting will be objective by definition. So if it is the case that Goku beats Naruto on the panel, empirically we can verify that this thing is objective. Then we can use that objective fact to infer another conclusion, which went into logical deduction. So by virtue of everything I said, logical deduction is something that can exist. Ergo, my conclusion logically follows. And I love Tywin.
Okay, great. I'm going to explain to you exactly why you're in fiction. There's this thing called off-panel scenes, and it's a possibility in every single piece of fiction because we see it exist in fictions like Marvel. And in off-panel things can happen, such as a character getting injected with morphine or a character getting injected with some type of amplifier. No matter what, there's always going to be a slip possibility to whatever argument you give that defeats the logical deduction. There is no objectivity in fiction because anything is possible.
So the reason why that wouldn't be the case, anyways, I don't care for the insults. I don't care about the insults. You can mute him, Sakazuki. You can mute him, Sakazuki. So you can give your argument and you can keep it concise. I don't care about the insults, dumbass. It doesn't make you rhetorically appealing. So once again, the reason why your argument would not be a defeater is because we have things such as narrative impossibilities. So sure, narratively within Marvel, we see this thing consistently. Therefore, it can be the case that off-panel things occur. However, narratively within Naruto, for example, if it is stated that off-panel things don't occur, but instead it's always portrayed to be on screen or on panel, then we would have some type of objectivity. So what you said would be disanalogous. I'm talking about in a hypothetical where there is no off-screen things. Also, you have to justify why logical impossibilities can occur within fiction, because you just said anything is possible in fiction, and you're going to question back by saying, well, it's fiction, anything is possible. That's just a claim, dumbass. No focus. Shout out to my nigga Focus and Reaper and Toxic. And I'm not even going to mention Jester.
Okay. You want to know where you fuck there? You're conflating narrative consistency with possibility. I'm not saying that X is narratively consistent in Naruto. I'm saying X is possible in Naruto because being authors execute X in other fictions. There's always going to be that exterior possibility that the author can write in an off-panel scan. No matter what, like I'm saying, you will never reach an 100% conclusion in fiction. Therefore, you can't go off of logical deduction like you're saying. You're incorrect. And we can conclude. I've said my point.
So in response to that, I don't want to conclude. So in response to what you just said, yes, that's the claim. I understand you're making a claim that by virtue of someone doing it in Marvel, for example, this can be the case within Naruto, for example. I'm asking, why is it the case that since someone has their own narrative built in a specific way, that thing would transfer to another narrative, which is literally stated that this narrative does not operate under this way, Oppo. You're just making a claim of no judgment. Bro. Shut up, bro. Oh my God, shut up, Sakazuki.
Oppo, just let him finish. Oppo, let him finish. Just let him finish and then go ahead.
Yes, so I'm not conflating anything at all. All I'm saying is that since this thing is stated by the author, for example, it would be narratively impossible for this thing to occur. Within Marvel, it's actually narratively shown that this thing can occur. Therefore, it would be disanalogous to apply some type of consistency off of Naruto to a different verse, dumbass. So we can conclude. You didn't give any justification for your claim.
Do you understand the categorical differences between possibility? Understand there are different possibilities outside of narrative possibility. I'm not inferring anything through the narrative of Naruto. I'm not inferring anything narrative. I'm saying it's logically possible for the author of Naruto to write an on-panel fucking scan. And you understand that is logically possible in the world because there are no logical contradictions to it. That means you cannot logically use anything in fiction. I'm done. I'm not explaining this again.
Okay.
I'm not explaining this again. I am
not explaining. Go ahead, Infinity.
What you just said. Yes, I understand that there's different types of modal scopes. Don't get knowledge clipped. I don't know why you bring that up. I'm not saying that this thing is only possible under a narrative modal scope. I'm saying that this thing is possible, or I'm saying that this thing is impossible under a logical modal scope, or possibly even a non-logical modal scope, which I can explain if you want elaboration on. So under the logical modal scope, it would be the case that this thing is impossible within the fictional setting, not in perspective of IRL, because in the fictional setting, we understand that if they make a claim that this thing can only be the case within fiction, then it would be identical with itself. Therefore, it cannot be the case that this thing is wrong. It's either P or not P. If it is P, then it tells it cannot be not P. Therefore, it will be logically impossible if it's both P and not P. So what you just said is a non sequitur, dumbass. We're talking about the fictional setting, not IRL, because we're talking about narrative consistency. The narrative is what holds the fictional setting. We're not talking about what the author is doing. We're talking about what the author is implementing into the fictional setting. So if the author within the fictional setting makes a statement about this thing being the case, that will be something that is objectively the case. You saying that you can propose any random possibility, you have yet to justify that. And the modal scope of logic is not something that we're talking about when it comes to IRL, but instead in perspective of the fictional setting, dumbass. So we can conclude.
All right, go ahead.
Sakazuki, why did you just let him rant like that?
Yeah, you can think that. We can conclude.
Hold on. Sakazuki, do you feel like you have a grasp on my point?
He's not the judge. He's the moderator. So we can move on.
He is the judge. We agreed to him being the judge in the beginning.
You said I was supposed to give an immediate.
No. Yeah. My bad. Sakazuki's the judge. I forgot. My bad.
Okay. Sakazuki, do you think you have a grasp on my point? If not, I'll look at it.
I would just want
getting.
Toxic, you're the troll.
I think y'all are going somewhat circular. If y'all want, y'all can just both give a conclusion.
Yeah. Go ahead, Oppo. Go.
Okay. So my conclusion is, my essential point was that logical deduction cannot be used in fiction because certainty cannot be ascertained. I substantiated this by explaining that off-panel scenes are a possibility no matter who the author is, due to the fact that there are in real life logical contradictions to an author possibly writing an off-panel screen. We've seen authors write off-panel scans in verses like Marvel, which further substantiates the possibility of this transferring to a Naruto author. All I'm saying is that it's a possibility. It could be 0.005%. It's still a possibility. It still defeats the claim of certainty. All I'm saying is that given this idea of possible off-scene scans, you can never assert anything for sure in fiction, because you can always say that there's a statistical possibility a character was amped with some type of needle before whatever feat he performed. That's what I'm saying.
So in conclusion, I don't think he actually tried any of the arguments. This nigga's retarded as fuck. I was arguing under a logical motoscope. I was saying that even though we weren't talking about IRL, but instead we were talking about fiction, I did give an argument for it being logically impossible in terms of IRL, because I said if it is the case that the author strays from X thing, then it would be P. If it is not P, which would be that he narratively implements this in his verse, that would be a contradiction, because it cannot both be P and not P. That's logically contradictory. So I asked him to justify why logical contradictions in fiction is, one, something that can occur, which he didn't justify, and two, I gave an elaboration on to why within fiction, if something is an axiom, for example, there is no off-panel screens. By the way, Sakazuki, just to clarify, all I have to do is justify one instance or give even a hypothetical where
Yeah, no, I understand your point. I understand your point.
Okay. So basically, all I did was give a hypothetical where this thing is objectively the case, as in there's no off-screen panels, there's nothing besides what's narratively portrayed. If this is the case, that means what's narratively portrayed is the thing that we should accept as the readers. So Naruto beating Goku is the only thing that occurs objectively. I gave a distinction between objectively, I gave an elaboration on to what objective means within the terms of fiction. He didn't contend that. He didn't contend any of my arguments. I gave rationale. He didn't give rationale. Easy claps, like niggas ass. What the fuck?
All right, so let me just make sure I understood. Let me make sure I understood. Let me understand both arguments, right? So, Oppo, what you're saying is that essentially there's no logical contradiction in real life to the author of these series potentially portraying something off screen, right? Then therefore it's always there's something else possible. It's not there's not certainty, essentially, right? That's your argument, Oppo?
There's no logical deduction in the actual sense of the
within fiction.
Logical deduction.
All right, and then Infinity, Infinity, your argument is essentially.
No, shut up. He's asking me a question. Basically, Sakazuki, to answer your future question, which I have precog. Yeah, I was asking why. I was asking why.
No, wait. Let me just ask the question, bro. I don't need you precogging the question.
Yeah,
I'm just asking you that you are saying that if this thing, right, this quote unquote possibility, Oppo is saying that there's no IRL contradiction to, you're saying that if there's a contradiction within the verse for this thing, saying this thing cannot be the case, right? Then what is our basis for making this thing to be the case? What?
What I'm saying is, one, there is an IRL contradiction. Even if I posit the fact that there's no IRL contradiction, we're talking about what's the case within the fictional setting. Also, he tried to use some type of induction off of a Marvel system. I was asking, why is it inductive for you to use a Marvel system for that to transcript over to it being likely for a Naruto system? Where it's shut up.
Wait.
Yeah, if it is the case that Naruto has specific axioms in which is stated, that this thing is not
I don't do this shit, Sakazuki. I don't do this shit where we debate after the conclusions. So give your immediate judgment and we can move on. I don't do this.
So my immediate judgment would be to Infinity on that point.
Yeah, easy clap.
Do the fact that do you want an explanation or?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay.
So you can judgment after. You can give your explanation.
Okay, then go ahead.
No. I'm saying you can give your explanation, but can we contend it after?
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys wouldn't be. I mean, I'm not even the main judge, so you can just let Akana watch the record.
No, you're both judges, but sure, we can move on then. So I can start my scaling now that you lost that point.
I wanted to hear his explanation. I wanted to.
Oh yeah, sure. And Toxic, I was not writing at all. What the fuck?
Okay, so Oppo, from what I understood, you gave no response to him saying that if there's a contradiction presented within the fictional sense of that verse, how would this quote unquote possibility within the verse be possible? Like you didn't contend that thing that Infinity said at the end.
If there's a contradiction within the verse,
contend judgment after, bro. No, we don't have time for this. Okay, So,
Sakazuki,
oh my God, Saka, bro,
Sakazuki.
we did not agree to this, bro. Oh my God.
Sakazuki, what did he say when I
What?
said that there's no logical contradiction in the real to author writing an off-screen scan?
He's saying that he literally just he essentially steel man. He said that even if I don't posit that, right?
No, I did
If
not
I
give
were
an
to
argument
say
that's impossible. You want me to explain
what
it?
was, yeah, sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I said if it is the case that an author operates in X way, that means they operate solely in X way. If that is the case, then for them to operate in not X, that wouldn't tell a contradiction because either
No,
P-
that doesn't.
shut up. Oh
That
my
doesn't
God,
even
can
work. You
hold
can't
up.
even argue that.
Shut up.
You
I
can't
said
even
it's
argue
either,
that.
shut up, bro. I said it's either P or not P. If
When
he
you
operates in
argue a
P way,
possibility,
oh, bro, can you
implicitly
shut the
agree to
fuck
the
up, nigga? Like, damn, shut
antithesis of the
up.
possibility.
Shut up, bro. Sakazuki,
When
Wait,
you do,
Oppo,
when
let him just
you
explain his
oh
argument
my
real
God,
quick.
Sakazuki, can you mute him? Like, just do this such a.
They both got muted.
Can
Who the
both of you stop spurging and be cordial? Please
yeah.
and thank you. You guys are hurting my brain. I'm already tired. I want to go to sleep. I'm sure most people feel this way. People join to see an exciting debate, not retards yelling at each other. This is not sped class. It's not elementary school. So be cordial. Talk to
Okay,
each other.
Infinity.
I
Just
don't know why you
explain.
just made it, but I'm trying to, Sakazuki. He keeps on spurging over me. Can
Just
you mute him?
explain your
Thank you.
argument towards him saying there's no
Yes,
IRL
I
contradiction.
got you. So if it is P, it can't be not P, right? Under classical logic, Sakazuki.
All right, yeah.
Okay, so if it is the case that an author narratively operates in X way, it cannot be the case that they narratively operate in the contrary to X. Therefore, it would be a logical contradiction in both IRL and the fictional setting. That was my explanation. We didn't continue. We can move on.
All right, what'd
Can
you
we
say
move on?
towards that,
If
Oppo?
you had a look of comprehension, Sakazuki, if you had a look of comprehension, you don't understand that you don't even have to argue against that because as soon as you accept the possibility, you accept the
Oh my
antithesis.
God. Can
If
we
he's saying
continue,
if
bro?
this
Like,
is the
why are we
case,
continuing
that's a
judgment?
possibility.
Can we
Wait,
It's
continue?
cool.
repeat
We
that,
can move
Oppo?
on. We can move on. We can move
Okay.
on.
Yes,
We can
thank.
move
I
on.
know
We
we
can move
can.
on. It's
So,
cool.
anyways, yes,
That was
my spelling.
retarded.
Anyways,
Put
so
this
my
in your
spelling.
notes for
Anyways,
later.
so my
Now
spelling.
stop
Oh,
speaking.
oh my God.
Sakazuki, I
There you
wanted you
go.
to
Bro,
know.
can
I
I
want you to
speak? Like,
know.
can I speak for 2 seconds? Why is
No,
everybody
you've
calling me
been
a scourge?
speaking
I'm the
this
one
whole
that's trying to
time.
speak. Sakazuki,
Holy.
You've
talking
been
about
speaking
skill.
this whole time.
You literally suck at skill first. Like what? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's trying to
Okay,
tell
go ahead.
Sakazuki something. Am I wrong? Oppo?
No, I'm trying to
Yeah,
I
just
fucking
let
speak.
Oppo.
was,
Just let
but fine.
Oppo say
Oh
something.
my
Just let
God.
It's
Oppo want to say
fine,
something.
bro. Go.
Okay.
I know it's fine. So you just wasted
Okay,
our
now
time. Like I
go.
said, we're
Now
always going back.
go. Now go.
So my position would be that my character wins by virtue of outscaling. My character is abstract. What are your contentions?
Your
Hello?
character abstract.
Yeah, I just said that.
Did you send the scan for that?
I got you. Bro.
And here we see
And
Infinity.
are you
famous
like
attraction
are
right
you like comprehensive on the differences of abstractions?
Hold on, bro. Look at my scams. Just saying he's non-physical as a start.
So routers.
Before we get into that, hold on. You can
We
go
don't even
ahead.
gotta
Go
get
ahead.
into
And,
that. Well, don't
you
even
can
attack.
go
I wasn't
ahead.
saying that.
No, I'm gonna attack that, but you can go ahead and let Jester give you DMs. Go ahead and get them DM lamps, bro.
I want you to know that I don't DM anybody when I debate. I don't ask for DMs either. That's just
Yeah.
something I do. If
Okay,
I
bro.
want to stream my screen, I can.
Okay, bro. I believe you, bro.
Like, what the fuck? I got a DM from Akin, what debating Infinity on, and Bridge is fucking spamming my DMs for some reason.
Yeah, so anyways, it refers to him as a spiritual entity beyond physical reasoning. Therefore, he would be non-physical as a start. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to clarify something about beings that hold tight abstraction. I'd like you to look in VC scans. I think this is a really important parameter.
Wait, repeat yourself.
I said I want you to peep VC scans. I think this is a really important parameter to abstraction. So the point basically is, yeah.
Okay.
Can you take a deep breath and let me talk? Okay. So the text is basically saying abstract entities recurrently strictly embody concept or idea up to a certain level of reality. The case study used to substantiate this is eternity. Embodying the concept of time. Eternity is an abstract being, yet is only on a local universe scale.
Yeah. Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Yeah, so all I'm going to do is deny the description and deny everything that you're proposing. I don't care about that because that doesn't apply to my fictional setting. Stop cutting me off. Stop cutting me off. I'm going to explain it. If you keep on cutting me off, you won't understand. So Sakazuki, can you mute him for 2 seconds, please? And then you can unmute him if he cuts me off. You
Why
can
are
mute
you
him again.
muting me? I'm quiet.
Because you
Just
keep
let
on
him.
talking.
Let him. Okay, I'll leave him unmuted. If he does interrupt you, I'll just mute him. Okay, just
Okay.
let it like.
Anyways, I'm going to deny everything. I'm going to dismiss what you just said unless you bring it back up after. But I'm denying the basis in the description that you just gave. I don't care about that. That's not something that's going to be applying to my fictional setting. And once again, I did not agree to limit myself to some type of fictional scaling system or tiering system. I don't care about
I'm
that.
not using
So
fictional
shut up,
scaling.
shut up. So all I believe in when it comes to abstractions is that they're atemporal, aspatial. I don't care about Platonism or anything along those lines. It is not the case that an abstraction can be limited to a universal scope because to be non-physical means to be to be non-physical means you're unsubject to physical change. If that is the case, that means you're
And we
atemporal,
stopped
aspatial.
giving multiple.
Shut up. You gave multiple arguments.
You just
Bro,
said.
you gave stop. Can you mute him?
Oh
Like,
my
God,
I just the first thing you just
bro,
said.
you just
Bro,
said you
I'm
were mute him.
not. Okay, wait, hold up. I'm gonna mute both of you. Can both of you stop talking? Okay. Do you like? I'm not gonna moderate shotgun. So like, I'm not
I'm
gonna
telling you to
decipher
mute him.
what a
You said it's
shotgun
true.
is. So Oppo, what I'm gonna do, right, is I'm gonna
I'm
let
just
him
asking
speak.
to
You
be
can.
able to address every point one by one.
Yeah, you will after.
I'll let you speak until you address every point he made.
Oh my, what? Bro, anyways, what the fuck? Okay, so if my character's
Can we
not
just go
hello?
point by point?
yo,
That
can you
causes
just mute him?
derailment.
He made points, and I'll explain the points that he made. Just mute him. You said you would mute him when he fucking starts speaking. Okay, so one of the points he made was that abstractions are limited to a universal scale or something along those lines. The reason why that wouldn't be the case is because to be non-physical means you're unsubject to physical change. There's no such thing as metaphysical change, which I'm establishing currently. Change is represented spatially, therefore time, biconditionally, is represented spatially. If that is the case, then my character will be abstract by virtue of that. They will be beyond any type of axes because axes require space. They cannot move as abstractions. So my true form, which will be Femto, is abstract. Go ahead.
Okay. The first thing I'm going to address is this. Do you have any type of proof that the universe of Berserk is anything beyond universal? Because if not, the concept doesn't go past a universal concept. The abstraction doesn't go past universal. You understand that, right?
You want to respond to that? You want to respond?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually don't need any type of adequate justification under your system.
You
All I need to justify is that. Shut up, bro. How are you gonna tell me to like respond and then cut me off, bro? Like, how are you gonna like? What is wrong with you, bro? Just can y'all mute him? Like, please, like, Sakazuki, I'm done giving him chances. Just mute him, bro. He doesn't know how to take turns. Like, the fuck. I understand why Gia slammed this nigga. Anyway, so once again, I don't need to give adequate justification under your satisfactory system. All I'm going to do is explain why. Premise one, all abstractions are the same. Instead of their applications, which would be the concept of an apple, concept of a chair, concept of toxic, they all have the same nature, which would be atemporality and aspatiality. I don't care about the application, which would be the apple or toxic city, shit like that. All I care is about the nature. So the nature, which is atemporal spatial, is not going to be something that's limited to the cosmological structure of the verse, but instead it would transcend anything that is spatial and temporal.
So the problem with what you just said is you're trying to assume that all of these abstractions would be on the same level of existence, but wouldn't. And the reason they wouldn't is because abstractions, such as the one you demonstrated in Femto, exist in Marvel, and abstractions exist which transcend those which are of Femto and Marvel.
Yeah.
For example, my character is fictionally above the living tribunal, a character that embodies the concept of justice.
Yeah. So there's two different things between intentionality and actuality. When it comes to you saying that, for example, in Marvel, a character can transcend a concept, I would just say that's impossible. When it comes to, for example, us, it's not that. Shut up, bro. Can you shut the fuck up, bro? When it comes to us who are fictionally above our fictional characters, that all that means is that the characters aren't actually abstract. They're abstract in perspective of the fictional setting, but narratively, they're two-dimensional beings. That's just what that means. So when we transcend,
shut up, bro. That's not true at all. It shows a different dimensionality.
Why does he get chances? Why does he get chances? Just mute him. Damn. So when it comes to us fictionally transcending our characters, that doesn't mean that we're abstract. It doesn't mean we're beyond dimensionality, but instead that would be empirically contradicted. All that means is that narratively, they're not the case. However, fictionally, this is just an imagination that we embed for some type of understanding or some type of enjoyability. That doesn't do anything.
So you're basically saying that you think that the difference between a paper and a 3D being in fiction there's no dimensional difference?
You want to answer that? Or is it rhetorical?
It's a yes or no. It's a yes or no.
Yeah.
I want to
elaborate. Wait. Yeah, so I'm going to say something.
But I keep asking you.
I'm going to
elaborate on my piece,
hold on.
and then you want
Hold on. I'm trying to answer. You asked me a question, but won't let me answer. Like, what is wrong with you, bro?
Listen. Infinity.
Okay,
Infinity.
bro,
the way it's progressive debate works is we go back and forth.
Give him so many chances.
All right, Oppo, like finish what you're saying, and I'm gonna let
Okay.
Infinity answer the question.
In the beginning of the debate, Infinity proposed this. We're going to go with deduction. Ergo, if your character is 3D and my character is 5D, the 5D character would win. Now, try to deny dimensional differences demonstrated in fiction, meaning he'd be denying the complete differentiation of dimensions in fiction in general. He's trying to say that I perceives another thing as fiction, as editable fiction and summonable fiction. There's no dimensional difference because they're all on paper to us. That makes no sense.
All right, go ahead, Infinity.
Yeah, that's not what I said. I said there's an intentional dimensional difference. However, when it comes to in perspective of us, the IRL beings, there's no actual difference. There's an intentional difference because it's an imaginable being.
Talking about
Bro,
IRL.
Hey, Oppo, let him.
Okay.
I'm muting him. I'm muting him. I'm muting him. I'm muting. Chill.
Thank you. Damn, shut up. Anyways, so you saying that there's no distinction within the verse, you're strawmanning me. I never said there was no distinction in the verse, but instead, in perspective of a fictional setting, there would be some type of dimensional difference. There can be 5-dimensional beings, 3-dimensional beings. However, when it comes to a fictional transcendental being, all I'm saying is that it will be the same type of transcendence that they have over that fictional being as in perspective of us over them. So it would not be the case that they're abstract within a fictional setting, but instead it would be whoever has the fictional transcendence would be like us to them. So they wouldn't be abstract, but instead it would just be some type of narrative thing in a fictional verse. And when it comes to the dimensional transcendence thing, when people say that a 4-dimensional being is over a 3-dimensional being fictionally, they're just referring to a metaphor. They're not saying that in actuality this is the case, but instead a 4-dimensional being has a higher axis in which the 3-dimensional being is able to perceive up to the 4-dimensional being, same as the 4-dimensional being is able to go to the dimensions that are lower to them. So that is not the case that we can do that because we cannot go into fiction. Obviously, that's retarded.
I just burped.
Okay. Going off of the logical deduction, quote unquote, that can be inferred from your 3D, 5D difference, if you've got character X that scales to, say, outer versal, for example, right? And then you've got character Y who's blatantly, completely transcendent and on another level of reality from that on the outer versal level, then you do understand that character Y would logically be character X under the presumptions that you presented in the beginning. I'm speaking. I want to keep going. Listen.
I didn't say anything. Fuck.
Okay, great. So I want to clarify something to Sakazuki. He's come to this point where he's trying to say that he thinks all abstractions are on the same level. Okay, if I show an abstraction on a different level in my piece of fiction, then I disprove that, correct?
Wait, don't ask Sakazuki because I have a response to that.
If I show a hierarchy of abstractions in Marvel, that disproves his point, right?
I mean, that is your argument, is it not? That there are hierarchies. So
okay. So now before wait. So now because now I want the same charity that was granted to Infinity. Before we move on this point, I want to be able to send my scan and explain it because that's my point here to counteract.
The problem is
don't say anything. Mute him.
I'm not continuing. I'm not continuing. I'm not continuing
because I'm still going. Mute him how you muted me. Thank you.
Okay.
Now give me 1 second. I'll grab my thing. Okay.
So, how's it feel to yell over people for no fucking reason? Must be great. Is it, Oppo? In Infinity? Is it fun?
What?
I said, is it fun having to scream over each other like every 5 seconds?
No, it's not. This guy has no charity.
Exactly.
My fault, Sakazuki. I'm grabbing my scan.
Yeah.
Everybody, I want you to know, Theoretical Toxic is just a little cuck. He will cuck down to you. That's all I had to say.
Okay, here we go. The scan right here demonstrates a hierarchy between concepts of Marvel, playing the Link Tribe at the top of them because he governed them and commands them and controls how they influence the universe. The skin is in VC scans. This right here demonstrates a hierarchy within abstractions and fiction, which completely disproves Infinity's idea that we can equate every abstract entity to being on the same level of existence.
Can I unmute
You
him
can
now?
go ahead
Are
and
you done?
Bro,
Alright,
don't ask the fucking debater if you can unmute me. When you see he's done with his point, unmute me.
Yeah, you do
Stop
the
talking.
same thing, bro.
Anyways, I do not ask if I can. I never asked if you can unmute him. Anyways, once again, there's multiple things I want to refute. So for the first thing, I never said that a fictitious character would lose to an actual character in perspective of the verse. When you have things such as fictional. Oh, okay, Sakazuki, can you mute him, bro? Oh my gosh.
Just
mute him. You give him way too many chances. No, he cut him off. I don't know whose mic that is, but or camera, can y'all turn him off real quick? Anyway, so in clarity, I never said that a fictitious being would not lose an IRL character in perspective of the was that when it comes to dimensional transcendences, it is not an actual fictitious transcendence. However, that's a metaphor for people who want to describe or have an understanding of what this thing is. I already explained why it would be the case, so we can move on from that point. With the concept things, I already explained once again, if you show it within a verse, all that means is that the author's intending for X to be the case, doesn't mean in actuality X is the case. When you have, for example, Naruto beating Goku, the author can make a statement about Goku beating Naruto. However, if we see it as contradicted within a verse by, for example, feeds, statements, descriptions of abilities that are elemental counteries to, for example, Naruto, all that means is that in actuality, this thing is contradicted and X is the case, while it is intended for Y to be the case. So when you just sent your scan, sure, the author can intend for X. If I were to presuppose that what your scan is saying is what you said, sure, the author can intend for that. However, in actuality, why does that mean that it's actually the case? Intentionality is distinct from actuality. And another point I would like to bring up, sure, even if I were to lose that other point I just brought up, it can be referring to concepts being above each other in a sense where applications, like for example, the concept of colors, the application itself would be applied to, for example, the concept of a horse, because the concept of brown, the concept of a horse also includes brown because it will be a brown horse. So so in a hierarchy, technically, a concept application will be above another application. But what I'm arguing for is the nature of a concept, which is atemporality and spatiality itself, dumbass.
I go ahead, Oppo.
What you just said is logically impossible.
In the motherfucking sauce, my boy. Let me explain this.
That's not an argument.
So the beginning of the debate, the premise of the debate is that I outscale your character. If you get your character to a certain baseline and I can match that baseline in my verse and then show characters that go above that baseline can implicitly beat your character. You trying to say that just because the author intends it to be the case doesn't mean it's the case is completely incorrect. We're comparing different characters from two different verses. When we're talking about the scaling to each respective character, what the author says goes in terms of that character, in terms of that verse. So I can get my character to your character's baseline, or if I can get a character to your character's baseline and then scale my character above that character logically with no appeals to any type of structuring tiering system, logically and simply logically, my character would beat yours. What I'm trying to say now, no.
No, I said my bad.
What I'm trying to say now is that when we talk about Femto, we're talking about the collective consciousness. Femto is the idea of evil. That's literally the title of the chapter. He's the idea of evil. Guess who else is the idea of evil? Master Chaos. Guess who's above Master Chaos? Living Uno.
Okay, so the reason why nothing you just said does matter is because you just question begged. Once again, the claim is that whatever the author intends for is what's actualized. You have to justify that the claim is actually true, that it's adequate and has corresponds with reality. Bro, shut the fuck up, nigga. I let you finish every time. Yo, stop.
Wait, okay.
Stop.
Yes.
Just do talking stick. Oh my god. So anyways, you making a claim that this thing is the case doesn't mean in actuality it's the case. That's just you question begging once again in response to the other claims. I believe it's logically impossible for it to be a hierarchy of abstractions unless it's referring to the applications such as the apple, the toxic, the reaper, etc. The concept of an apple, the toxic of reaper, the concept of a reaper, the concept of Sakazuki. Sure, they have distinct applications. The applications can be above each other in some type of metaphorical way. However, I'm asking why is the nature, which is atemporality and aspatiality above each other? That is what's put into question currently. So I'm just going to deny a hierarchy existing. You have no argument as to why hierarchy exists. Also with the collective, bro, do not unmute him. With the collective unconsciousness stuff, that is not something that's going to be relevant. And once again, my character was atemporal spatial. The idea of evil is something that is contained within everyone within the verse. I justify my character being atemporal spatial. Within your verse, it is logically impossible for your character to be atemporal spatial because we see your character moving. We see your character has some type of spatial property. So since you didn't justify logical possibilities being something that can occur within fiction, you have no argument as to why your case is justifiable.
Okay, I do have a case for you, and this is what I've been trying to say the entire time. Everything causal, baseline acausal is not the same. There are acausal dimensions in Marvel. There are dimensions completely independent of space and time in Marvel, and there are dimensions of those dimensions. Yes, you're going to say it's illogical. Oh, just because the author intends for it to be logical, that doesn't mean that it's logical. Unfortunately, Infinity, I already said, we're comparing different verses. When we're talking about the respective scalings of the characters, what the author says goes in terms of the verse. I'm not asserting that character beats yours. I'm not asserting that my character even comes in contact with yours. I'm saying my character outscales yours. If I can demonstrate your scaling at a certain level in Marvel and they're being scaling higher than that scaling, then I would win based on the parameters you set. Like I said, there are dimensions that are above acausality. There are dimensions and there are dimensions above that, such as the macroverse.
Yeah, so Sakazuki, what you just said is logically impossible. It is not the case. There can be a dimension that is outside a dimension that's logically
It's not
impossible.
logically impossible.
Bro, shut the fuck up, bro.
Oh
Like,
my
mute some
God,
Sakazuki.
bro.
You talking stick. You know he's gonna do this every time, nigga. So it is not the case that there can be a dimension without a dimension that's literally impossible, tautologically and logically. So when you say that a dimension is there, then it has to be identical with itself. A dimension has to be there for a dimension to be there. So it cannot be a causal. You making a claim that it's the case is not an argument as to why it's the case. You saying that the author, whatever he says or intends for it to be the case, is something that's going to be actualized. You have no argument for that. I already explained that it's consistent with fiction. That, for example, even though this is not something that's necessary, Sakazuki, I'm saying just especially since within fiction we have multiple showcases of the author intending for something to be the case, but in actuality is contradicted. Like, for example, the author can intend for Goku to be Naruto, but Naruto actually beats Goku, or he has some type of descriptive features that allows him to counter or full counter Goku, then your entire argument would be defeated. So you're making a claim that, for example, the author can imagine a square apple, or that's impossible. You can never justify he can actually imagine that and implement it within a fictional setting. Shout out to my nigga Focus. These niggas goaded. And I'll explain why before we conclude on this point, because I'm going to pre-call that you're going to want to go to conclusions. If my character is atemporal spatial, that entails that there cannot be a point in time where he exists and not exist. Therefore, you cannot destroy or erase my character, and you cannot damage him, etc. So you can actually justify why your character beats or outscales my true form's character, or my character's true form.
Go ahead, Oppo.
That was a shotgun. The point about
It's not a
his
shotgun.
character's hack was completely unrelated to the scaling that we're talking about right now. I'm not addressing that point at all, and it should not be considered as a point of position. Now, let me speak on what I want to speak about. What you're doing, you're committing this problem where you're trying to conflate fiction and reality. You're trying to our real laws, our logical laws with fiction. You can say all you want, oh, it's logically impossible to imagine a square circle, but in fiction, you put that down on a paper and have that concept exist if the author intends for it to exist. Logic doesn't work how it works in real life, how it does in fiction. An author wants it to work in fiction. An author wants to create a made-up dimension that doesn't abide by our laws, is above acausality. They have every single right to do that, and Marvel does that all the time. They create their own dimensions, they create their own laws, and that is completely allowed in fiction, just based on the fact comes from and fiction's bootstrap is imagination. Now, what you're saying is completely wrong about the Goku and Naruto thing. The reason that doesn't work, it's not because, oh, what the author intends isn't what is real. The reason that doesn't work is because the author has authority over a verse that he doesn't own. That's a copyright issue. The reason that an author can't say Goku beats Naruto canonically is because the author doesn't own Naruto. It's because the author, what the author says goes, or what the author doesn't say goes. An author has every single right to create a completely parallel to Naruto and then put Goku above them, which is what I'm trying to say is the case in Marvel. There's a character parallel to Femto in Marvel, and my character is above.
Okay, so anyways, yeah, you're clearly lost in the sauce, no jester. Also, look at that nigga, I did not respond, and now that nigga completely silent. But anyways, what you just said, that isn't a shotgun at all. There's no argument as to why it's a shotgun. The reason why it isn't a shotgun is because...
It was completely irrelevant because I actually said we're not talking about hacks, we're talking about scaling.
Sakazuki. Anyway, so the argument or the claim about this being irrelevant, one, some type of irrelevancy does not entail a shotgun, entails a red herring, dumbass, or a non sequitur. But anyways, it wasn't irrelevant because my current scaling is that my character is abstract. If you attribute that to be some type of hacks, it doesn't matter because that's what current scaling, hacks can scale you some type of way. But anyways, the reason why I'm not conflating fiction and reality is because you're trying to say that fiction is booted off of imagination. I'm asking, why is it the case that you can imagine something logically impossible? You saying that you can write on a piece of paper. That is not the case. You cannot demonstrate a circle square on a piece of paper unless you're Thea. He's the only one that can do that. Since that is the case, you are just lying. You're not giving an argument as to why you're conclusion is inferred when say you're just question begging and making a claim, dumbass. So I agree that imagination is a thing that boosts fiction, but I'm going to ask you, why can you imagine and implement within fiction logical contradictions? You saying that you can is not an argument. Also, for the authority stuff, I'm giving a hypothetical where he does own the verse. I'm not saying in actuality Goku can, or the author of Dragon Ball can allow Goku to go fucking fight Naruto. Those are two distinct verses. I'm giving a hypothetical in which the author both is the author of, for example, Toxic and Natsu verse. If he is the author of Toxic and Natsu verse, and these two characters that he wrote, Naruto and Goku, exist in it, he intends for Goku to win, but we see descriptively Goku or Naruto has every single counter to Goku's abilities, and we see on panel that Goku beats him, then that means actuality contradicts intentionality, and it'll be taken overall, dumbass. So fuck that nigga Auden. You have no argument, Oppo, and we can conclude.
I'm not ready to conclude. First, I'm gonna adjust both points you just said consecutively.
What'd you say?
I'm gonna adjust both points you said in seconds.
Yeah, I would like
don't
to-
know what you're
hold on.
talking about affirming
Yeah, I
consequent. You're gonna have to elaborate on that if you want to use it as a
I
point.
didn't finish. I didn't finish.
Anyway,
Also,
no words.
you were affirming the concept.
Sakazuki, please let me talk, Sakazuki. Thank you. Okay. First of all, the first thing that you said is that you can't, since you can't imagine something, like you can't actually visualize something in your imagination, it can't be written down in fiction. That's correct. Just because we can't logically visualize something in our brain, such as a square circle, doesn't mean that an author can't translate laws that are meant to go around our strict laws to encompass that circle. The author is creating parameters within his verse in which a square circle can be perceived, and he's not saying that the humans can perceive it. He's not even saying that he can perceive it. He's simply saying that the characters within the verse that he's creating can perceive it. That is how illogicality can transfer into fiction, because authors create the parameters of the verse that they're writing. They are allowed to bend the rules of physics, to bend the laws of logic how they please, as long as they can translate the idea. That's the key there. Translating the idea to a piece of paper. You don't have to be able to visualize it for it to be fictional. That's your disconnect here. You think that something has to be imaginatively visualized in order for it to be translated into a piece of fiction. That's incorrect. Now, I'm going to reiterate what I've been saying this entire time. Using your Naruto versus Goku example, right? If the author of Goku created a character that was parallel to Naruto, and then had Goku beat that character, and when I say parallel, I mean they have the same scaling, then it logically inferred that Goku would beat Naruto. He's somebody that was created as a parallel to Naruto. Okay? This is using the same type of logical deduction that you wanted to go off inside of a tiering system. This is the same logic thing. 5D character beats a 3D character without any type of structure to it. Okay? So when I say that there's a parallel of Femto in Marvel, such as Master Chaos, already asserted, and you didn't contend, right? When there's a parallel to Femto in Marvel, such as Master Chaos, who embodies the concept of evil in the same way that Femto does, there are characters above Master Chaos in Marvel. Those characters above Master Chaos would implicitly beat Femto. What I'm trying to argue, I'm not trying to say that the stuff that's in Marvel automatically transfers over to the Femtoverse. I'm saying that in terms of logic that we agreed on in the beginning, my character would scale over yours. My character would outscale yours. That's my point.
Yeah, so in response to everything you just said, because you just question bagged in every single argument you just gave, one, I want you to repeat the
How
claim
did
that
I
you want to
question
allow.
bag? How did I question bag?
Like,
How
bro,
did
I let him.
question bag?
Yo,
How did I
Sakazuki,
question
can
bag?
you just do talking stick? Like, you understand he's gonna do it. I keep saying this. Anyway, so you can't imagine something, blah blah blah. You just question back with that. When it comes to the author setting parameters to portray an idea, I'm asking, why isn't the parameters that they're setting something that they are not limited to? Why can't they just have unlimited power when it comes to a fictional setting? You're making a claim that they're capable of doing so. It's not an argument as to why they're capable of doing so, but instead it's just you repeating your belief. That is your belief. I agree, and everybody in chat agrees that's your belief. Toxic, can you vouch in chat that you agree that's his belief? Go ahead, Toxic. Yes, you agree, Reaper. Yes, Toxic, you agree. So yes, I agree that's your belief, and everybody in chat agrees that's your belief. However, your belief is something that is not a true justified belief, dumbass. So once again, you have no argument as to why it's the case. When it comes to visualization, what imagination is a visual conception of it. So if you cannot visually conceive of, for example, a circle or square, that entails it's impossible for you to implement in fiction, because fiction is something that's booted, or it is imagination, not synonymously, actually. So once again, since you question back and went circular, after the other points I'm going to bring up, we can just conclude. When it comes to the hypothetical, you're lost in the sauce, no jester. So I'm not even going to bring that point up again. That's something that's going to be embedded within the recording, and Sakazuki can listen to that. And with the logical deduction stuff, that doesn't feel my point at all. Like you asked, and once again, you saying there's a hierarchy within Marvel. Yes, I agree that they intend for there to be a hierarchy, but I gave an argument against that, Oppo. That's impossible. So we can conclude.
Wait, what did you just say was impossible? What did you just say was impossible?
It's impossible for there to be a hierarchy such as I already explained why. You haven't yet to
It's
justify
not
why.
impossible. It's not impossible. Hold on. Okay, I'm gonna speak now. I'm gonna speak.
I'm clarifying for the judge.
Please mute Sakazuki. Please mute him, Sakazuki. He spoke the whole time. Thank you. So the baseline for it being impossible, again, is bootstrapping this conflation between reality and fiction. I gave a very concise reason as to how things that are illogical in our reality can be translated into a fictional verse. All that has to happen for logicality to is translation of the idea. Okay, I there's nothing, like, you can't go any further than that. There's nothing else that I can say. That's the right there. The reason that it's possible for dimensions to exist past a causality in Marvel.
Oppo, he said repeat himself. He couldn't hear you. He couldn't hear you. He couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that part for him? Hello? Oppo.
What?
Can you repeat that part for him? Infinity didn't hear it.
Repeat what point? The point about the impossibility?
Yeah, the part where you just talked about how
okay,
you like
all I'm saying is that impossibility is possible. Impossibilities convey fiction translation of ideas. You can translate the idea of a square circle. You might not be able to imagine or visualize the idea, but you can translate it and make up a fictional verse in which the idea can be perceived. You can't perceive it yourself, but you are still creating a verse in which those boundaries can be put, those boundaries can be manipulated. It's for the same reason that a collective consciousness can exist in the first place in Femto. Because honestly, if you want to go down the route of collective consciousness exists, that's just going to be a fucking terrible route. I don't see why you're trying to abide by reality so strictly when you're literally using a collective conscious being that is the concept of evil. It's quite ridiculous. All I'm saying is that fiction bends our boundaries. Fiction is meant to bend our boundaries. Fiction is meant to convey things that aren't possible in real life. Yeah.
So anyways, in response to your argument, all you did was question back once again. I agree that they can translate the idea in some type of way. However, since they cannot do it visually, then they have to do it in some type of language or linguistic fashion, which would be making a claim. Claims are something that have truth value. It's either truth or falsity. So why is the case when they make a claim about something being logically impossible, it is actually true since you cannot visually conceive of or perceive a logical contradiction. Therefore, you cannot display it on a piece of paper. Since you cannot visually display it on a piece of paper, you have to make the claim. The claim is going to be put into question. So you have no argument as to why they can produce logical contradictions. Also, I'm not solely abiding off of reality. I agree that nomoologically speaking, they can produce impossibilities from fictional settings, or epistemically speaking. However, why is it the case that under the logical motoscope, they're able to produce logical impossibilities in some type of fashion? You have no argument for that. Once again, like, can you show me an instance in fiction where they produce a logical impossibility? Also, once again, you keep on conflating terms because you suck and you haven't debated since 2005, clearly. Once again, perception and conception are two different things. We're not arguing upon perception. We're arguing upon conception. What I'm able to visually conceive is not the same thing as what I'm able to visually perceive. So, once again, you have no argument, and you suck. Shout out to my niggas, Reaper, Toxic, all them niggas. Fuck that nigga Jester, you a bitch, and fuck that nigga out of
Oh,
so we can
muted himself.
Perception has absolutely no dictation. Perception has absolutely no taste for fiction. The reason that an author can convey something impossible and it be the case is because it's the author's verse. The author is the governor of the verse. The author is the dictator of the verse. The author creates and operates the verse. The reason the author can apply impossibilities and say it's the case in the verse is because his fiction. If the author is conveying an idea that a realm exists within the verse, which is above a casuality, then that is the case in the verse. Now, what I'm saying, I'm not, and in that case, also, he visualizes the dimension. It's not what it would actually look like, but there's still visualization, still artwork for the dimension. He's still creating a dimension and saying that these logical boundaries that your verse is bound to are not applicable in the dimension that he created. So this whole idea that like you're saying about like the impossibility of being able to be translated but not applicable is just nonsense, because the author can apply absolutely anything he wants to the fiction, absolutely anything. It makes literally, like, you're arguing from a position with absolutely no basis to say that an author can manipulate the law of logic in a fictional verse. If he's creating walls to a room and saying these walls are breaking a boundary that can't be even in real life, that's how it is in the verse. Okay, I'm not trying to say that these impossibilities are applicable to Femto. I'm not trying to say that at all. I'm trying to say that they're contained in Marvel. They're restricted to Marvel, sure, but my premise, if you remember, was that my character outscales yours. Okay, you can say, oh, but the outscaling is an impossibility. It's an impossibility in your verse. It's not an impossibility in my verse. Off ice scaling, I'm still higher than yours, which is my premise. I mean, I just don't see what you're arguing here. And if you're ready to conclude, we can.
Let me see what PAP I should use. Oh, I should eat that tomorrow too. Oh yeah, in response to your arguments. Anyways, what you did was go circle it once again. I don't understand how many times I'm going to call question begging no D1 in this bitch. But once again, Oppo, we can conclude after I make this statement. Anyways, we can conclude after I make this statement or a couple of statements.
Every time you're thinking about me committing a foul, I ask you how you don't.
Can you mute him? Can you mute him? Because he can't take turns like a normal person. So when it comes to logical impossibilities, all I believe fiction to be is the author's imagination as in a perspective imaginations. For example, my own imagination will be my fiction. Your own imagination will be your fiction. If we have a universal applicable, let's say we have a universally quantified statement about, for example, X being imaginably impossible, as in it's conceivably impossible. If that is the case, that we cannot conceive of X, therefore universally, no person's fiction can hold X. If that is the case, which I'm trying to translate to logic, since you have no argument as to why logical impossibilities can exist within fiction, my conclusion would logically follow. You keep on question begging within your verse. I'm not saying that, since it implies in your verse, it has to apply to all my verse. I'm not saying that you're trying to universally apply it. What I'm saying is that within your specific verse, if it is something that is a universal principle, that being that logical impossibilities cannot be embedded within fiction or imagination, then there cannot be a specific in which it's applied to, which will be in translation to your verse. So, Oppo, you making a claim that's in your verse, I understand that's your belief. Toxic understands, Reaper understands, we're taking vouch for it once again, but that is not an argument as to why it's true. Damn, nigga. So we can conclude.
Okay, you're wrong. I'm gonna explain how you're wrong there. What you just did was you done a non sequitur. Your point completely didn't follow. The conclusion didn't follow from the premise at all. You saying that something can't be perceived universally within our imagination is bound to the third dimension, by the way.
What?
Which is bound to the third dimension, by the way. You saying that we can't translate these ideas into imagine them doesn't follow at all. You're missing a piece of that puzzle completely. There's no reason that an author can't fictitiously make up that bends the laws of logic or bend the laws of physics just because he can't perceive them in his 3D bound imagination. We can't imagine a 5D character, yet you've already conceded that a 5D character can exist in fiction when you explained your logical deductions. So how is the 5D character translatable onto a piece of fiction? It just makes no sense. All your arguments are backtracking.
Of course the claims. So anyways, ignoring the slurring of your words in response to the claims you just made, the reason why we can visually conceive of a 5D being is because we understand what makes up a 5D being. We understand what axes are. So you have one axis, second axis, third axis. I mean, what the fuck? Fourth axis. I'm going to explain why you can visually conceive of a fifth dimensional being, because if all the dimension is an axis, then all the fifth axis has to be is another way of movement, a measurement of movement that is something that is not going to be relative to every other axis. So all conception is
that's incorrect.
Bro, Sakazuki, bro. Like, why would you even unmute him? You already know he's going to do this shit. Can you just mute him again? Anyway, so if it is the case, yes, thank you. So if it is the case that we have knowledge on what the axes are, which we do, we understand what can make up of a 5-dimensional being, which would be, for example, being able to move left and forward, jumping up and down, right and backwards, right and left, etc. Plus being able to move through timelines, being able to move through time, which makes up a 4-dimensional being, etc. That entails we have knowledge on the 5th-dimensional axis, therefore we're able to go up there to that 5th-dimensional axis. Another thing is within the fictional setting, it's going to be defined as whatever we want it to be. So we say a fictional 5th-dimensional being within the verse will be a pig, then sure, within the fictional verse, we can say that, well, this character has the qualities of a pig, therefore by virtue of that, I can label them the title as a 5th-dimensional being in perspective of the verse. So you did not respond to my argument. It wouldn't be a non sequitur. I just explained why all my conclusions logically follow. And the reason why your question, Meg, is because you're assuming that the author has ultimate authority, but instead, once again, I define fiction as imagination. If there is a universal principle that can not apply to any imagination, or it applies to all imaginations, that says not P cannot be the case, that entails within your own fictional setting, which is directly synonymous with your imagination, not P cannot be the case. Like, it's literally simple. Like, this is just a tautology. If P cannot be the case, then P can't be the case, dumbass. Like, what the fuck? This nigga's so ass.
The only evidence of the 5th dimension, there's no empirical evidence of the 5th dimension, and nobody can actually imagine a 5th-dimensional structure or a 5th-dimensional being in the same way that we can't imagine a 4th-dimensional being. For this, all you have to do is appeal to the causal decline theory, okay? There is no evidence that's empirical. There is no visualization of a dimension that's higher than you in terms of what we're talking about here. You saying that you can perceive axes, or we know this many axes exist, so you can technically imagine it. That's not true at all. You're not perceiving an actual 5th-dimensional structure. You're just parameters what the 5th-dimensional structure has to abide by. Now, what I'm trying to say is off of this is that your entire point is redundant because you've already conceded to the fact that all can translate things that can't be imagined into fiction, such as 5th-dimensional beings. In the very beginning of this debate, you said a 5th-dimensional being would be a 3rd being fiction off of this logical deduction that is without structure that you wanted to abide by. We cannot imagine a 5th-dimensional structure. We cannot imagine a 5th-dimensional being. Yeah, you've agreed that a 5th-dimensional structure and 5th-dimensional being can be translated into a fictional verse. You are not defeating my point at all. When I'm trying to say that there is nothing wrong with an author bending the laws of physics or the laws of logic for fiction. I mean,
you keep on
saying like you keep trying to assert that it's not like universally objectively the case or whatever. Oh, wait, you know what? I just remembered something that I actually want to address. Your belief in fiction is completely ungrounded. Your belief that everybody's fiction is just their imagination, completely unfounded and illogical. Do you want to know why? Because I read and process fictional things which I cannot imagine an only dimensional being like the Beyonder who exists in Marvel. Okay, I'm still perceiving this character, how he's drawn on the paper, and I'm reading about the character abides to. Yet I'm not actually visualizing an infinitely dimensional character.
Yeah, so anyways, what you're going to be doing within that specific instance is visualizing the claim because it cannot be discriminated, or it can be demonstrated on a fictitious piece of paper that is going to be finite, a infinite being, or a sum or similar to infinite being on a piece of paper. That's impossible. You cannot perceive true infinity or even potential infinity. That's literally impossible. So what you just said is non sequitur in response to the other claim you just made. You're trying to go off of an empirical basis solely. You don't even know what empiricism is, but instead we can also go off of rational evidence. I can give rational evidence as to why my conclusion is the case. So rationally, we can depict or imagine and conceive what a 5th-dimensional structure would look like. I don't understand why you believe we cannot. If we have knowledge on X thing, which is the 1st-dimensional axis, the 2nd-dimensional axis, the 3rd-dimensional axis, the 4th-dimensional axis, which would be another way of time or another way of movement, which would be going through linear time, which would be going to the future, past, etc. You making a claim that you can imagine it is not an argument as to why you cannot imagine, because I gave rationale as to why we can imagine no Sonic Hedgehog speed, nigga. So once again, all I need to do is imagine the capabilities of 4th-dimensional being, which would be able to transcript through time, linear time, the same as a 5th-dimensional being would be another way of movement, which you're able to go through, shift through timelines, which would be something that the 4th-dimensional axis cannot do. So another axis to a 4th-dimensional axis would be shifting through timelines analytically. Also, my fictional definition would be something that is justifiable analytically. I have justification. You have no justification for your definition, even though your definition is something that's not even going to be synonymous with my definition. Also, once again, I don't know why you keep on trying to make a conjunct statement about you saying that we cannot nomologically conceive of this thing and logically conceive of this. I'm not denying that we can nomologically conceive of impossibilities that are ascribed to that specific modal scope. What I'm denying is that we can logically conceive of logical impossibilities when it comes to that specific modal scope. So all you're doing is going circular. We can conclude. So yeah, you saying you can't perceive X, we don't need to go off of a posteriori knowledge instead, but we can also go off of a priori knowledge. That's just a claim you're making. Like, nigga, you suck, bro. Like, what's wrong with you? Nigga, you ass.
Hey, Sakazuki,
Hello? What?
can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Why would I be muted? I'm not cutting you off.
You've been interrupting me. Okay, thank you. So instead of us just going off of Infinity's poor understanding of the fifth dimension and its perception, I'm going to incorporate some studies into this so we can see that you cannot perceive the fifth dimension contradictory to Infinity's baseless reasoning. I dropped the source in general, which is explaining that the dimension is not able to be perceived. Imagination comes from perception. You can only imagine what you can perceive. Infinity agreed that shit is bootstrapped in imagination. If you can't perceive a fifth-dimensional structure, you can't imagine a fifth-dimensional structure. If you can't imagine a fifth-dimensional structure, then by Infinity's logic, a fifth-dimensional structure shouldn't be able to be translated into fiction. He's already seen that a fifth-dimensional structure can be translated into fiction. That's my point here. And now, I also want you to explain what nomological what the nomological possibility is that you're talking about. You keep saying that something is nomologically possible, but it's still not applicable. I want you to explain why something can be nomologically possible and not applicable. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what nomologically possible is. I'm not gonna lie to you. So you're gonna have to explain that.
You don't know simple. Okay, anyways, nomological impossibility would be simply something that does not contradict the naturalistic laws. So if it is the case that we can perceive a character flying in fiction, which we can do, that means they're able to do what's naturalistically impossible. Therefore, nomologically impossible things are justifiable to be implemented within fiction. I'm denying logical impossibilities being implemented within fiction because you have no argument as to why it would be grounds for it being implemented within fiction. All you're doing is on circulars saying that this thing can be the case, it can be the case. That's your belief, my nigga, not JTB, dumbass. So also the imaginal fifth thing shit. I don't care about some random Wikipedia, my nigga. Socrates is a bitch ass fuck nigga. Nobody cares about that nigga Socrates, nigga. That nigga Toxic says we can do it. Toxic has made multiple philosophical papers, so I'm gonna go off of him. And secondly, once again, dumbass nigga, all I'm saying is that by my definition of a fifth dimensional being, we're able to visually conceive of this thing and implement it within fiction. If your definition is something that does not translate to my definition, then it will be once again red herring because that's not what I'm arguing. So if I agree to X and by your definition X, it's Y, I'm not agreeing to Y. That's your definition. What I'm agreeing to is X by my definition.
Why can you create an applicable definition of fifth dimension, but an author can't create an applicable definition
Yeah.
of
Let me answer that. Even though I wasn't done, I'll answer that. So the reason why that can be the case is because I never denied that I never denied that authors can translate their own definitions. I actually am the one that posited that. I said that, for example, classical logic and reality, that is something that cannot be disobeyed within fiction, from my perception, because you have no argument. Sakazuki, mute him, bro. Oh my God. So we have classical logic IRL. That is not something that can be disobeyed within fiction because you have no argument against that so far. That is a belief I have. Once again, if that is the case, that would be something that is distinct from you saying that something is logically impossible within fiction, and then the author defining a logical impossibility as something, as for example, Reaper walking. Reaper walking can be a logical impossibility within that specific fictional verse. It can be defined as that. I don't care about that. What I'm referring to is classical logic. If that specific definition that's translated and transcripted to that fictional setting, I don't understand why it can be disobeyed within that fictional setting. For example, an abstract being moving would be logically impossible, so why cannot occur within fiction? That is not the same as the author implementing a character saying that something is logically impossible, but their definition being that a pig is eating Reaper's asshole while he's fucking his mother and watching D1 walking his dog to the bathroom while going to McDonald's and cooking for fucking food, bitch ass nigga. So that doesn't matter at all. It doesn't, like, you have no argument. And also, conception isn't limited to perception. Conception is something that's going off of knowledge, which can be creativity, cognitive functions, etc. It's not solely what we perceive in the real world. For example, a unicorn is not something we can perceive in the real world. However, we can build constructs of what a unicorn would look like based upon our creativity and our prior observations, as in a priori things and a posteriori things. What do you mean, Taco? But anyways, we can move on. You suck, dumbass nigga.
Okay. I have a reason for why authors can bend the laws of logic and the laws of physics and all of these other things. The reason that the author can bend these laws of logic and laws of physics is because they translate the idea of those laws being bent and the author has full authority over what he's writing. So the author can translate an idea into his fiction and display it in a certain way, right? And the author also has full authority over his fiction, say over what goes on in his fiction. Then the author has entire authority and entire entailment to be able to manipulate the laws of logic and the laws of physics within fiction. That's what I'm saying. There isn't. You keep trying to assert that there's no basis to my argument. There's no basis to your argument. You're trying to say that this isn't it's not translatable into IRL because it's not following classical logic. It doesn't matter because the idea of classical logic being disobeyed can be translated into fiction, and therefore, because the author has authority over his fictional verse and it's not real, that is the case. I don't care that you can't perceive it infinity. That's you subjectively. The author is creating a realm. The author is creating artwork for the dimension.
Yeah, so it's not the case that I solely cannot perceive it, but instead this is something that is universally applied. Unless you can justify, you can conceive or perceive a logical contradiction. This is not something that's going to be relevant to my point. We can't conclude because you just questioned back again. You said this X is the case because X is the case. I agree that you're trying to propose a tautology. Obviously, if X is the case, X will be the case. However, you haven't justified why
I
X is
wasn't
the
done
case.
talking.
Oh, go ahead, my bad.
I wasn't done talking. My mom
Yeah,
called
I
me.
said go ahead.
I wasn't done talking. My mom called me. Thank you. Okay. As I was saying, your argument is actually the one that has no foundation at all. You have no reason to say that an author can't fictitiously bend the laws of logic and the laws of logic. We keep going circular and keep saying that I don't have any reason to my argument, but the reason to my argument is simply the fact that the author can translate the idea and say it in a certain way. All the author has to do is translate an idea in a certain way for it to be the case in the verse. It doesn't have to be actually visualized. And I'm not repeating that again. I hope Sakazuki got that. I can conclude.
Yeah, so that wouldn't be the case at all because all you did was repeat the claim. I already gave an argument as to why I have a basis, even though it isn't necessarily pleaded. Bro, Sakazuki, can you meet him, please? I want to respond to something he just said. Sakazuki, can you meet him, please? Sakazuki, can you meet him, please? Thank you. So I actually gave an argument prior. I gave multiple arguments instead. I'm explaining why I have reasonable cause to believe this thing. I don't need to explain why this belief is something that has correspondence. That's actually your burden. You're trying to burden ship once again. So I'm going to ask you, what is your argument? You think you gave an argument. If that is the argument you want to use to justify JTB, then we can conclude. Also, once again, I already explained how I gave multiple arguments, analogical arguments. I gave actual arguments, deductive arguments, inductive arguments, abductive arguments, etc. So if that's going to be the case, we can conclude. No, Apollo, you can give your judgment. Go ahead, Sakazuki, give your judgment. Sakazuki,
do you feel like you can judge without a conclusion? I don't even feel like.
It'd be better if you guys went on that point for like a good bit.
Yeah, go ahead, Oppo. You can conclude first. Go ahead.
No, I went first. Let me first.
So, in conclusion, the reason why I believe I wouldn't punish is because he didn't really justify. There you go, Oppo. Go ahead. Conclude.
Bro, what?
The reason I won this point. The reason I won this point. Fucking mute.
Yeah, he's muted.
The reason I won this point is actually there's a couple reasons. The first reason I'd like to touch upon is the simple fact that Infinity tried to assert that something that can't be universally imaginable can't be applied to fiction. And he's going to try and say he didn't say that. But if you go back in the recording, he said, let's say that we did have a universal understanding of imagination. If there's something that can't be imagined, it can't be translated into fiction. This is a verbatim point of his. Okay? Now, he directly contradicted himself because in the beginning, he said that a fifth dimensional being in fiction would outscale a third dimensional being in fiction. In saying this, he accepted that fifth dimensional can be translated into a fictional setting. Okay. Now I give an actual study that substantiated the idea that the fifth dimensional structures and fifth dimensional beings cannot be perceived, cannot be imagined. I explained that imagination is the right percent. Okay. If Infinity is trying to say that this universal understanding or this universal imagination is what tricks the fiction, right? Then logically, fifth dimensional beings wouldn't be encompassed by a fictitious debate. Yet he agreed that fifth dimensional beings are encompassed by a fictitious debate. This was his first concession. He conceded this entire point in agreeing that a fifth dimensional being can be perceived and imagination is the limitation of fiction. Secondly, I believe I won this point. Aside from the stuff that's actually grounded in studies and actual readable sources of information, right, as to where he appealed to himself, his beliefs, and toxic philosophical papers, right? Apart from that, I believe I won because I explained that as long as an idea can be translated, as long as a parameter of a dimension can be translated with fiction, an author can apply that to their fictional verse. An author can bend the laws of physics, they can bend the laws of logic in fiction as long as they can translate that idea. Perception is not the limitation to fiction. You don't have to perceive something for it to be able to exist in a fictional verse. I explained this by explaining the state of the Beyonder in Marvel, right? I explained that the Beyonder is a being of infinite dimensions, right? And that's not perceivable logically, yet he still exists as this being in the fiction. The evidence is his existence and the statements of his existence. That's the evidence. The evidence is that the author was able to translate these ideas into his fiction. Again, I explained that when an author has authority of his verse, full authority of his verse, he can do whatever he pleases. See, logic and physics bend all the time in fiction. Infinity's own character bends the laws of physics by being a casual, Yet he still tries to say that things that can't be perceived, such as something that would be illogical or something that breaks the laws of physics, can't be implied in fiction. Another concession. He's using a character that wouldn't be able to be perceived off of his own parameters. We went through a lot of other subpoints in that debate, but I think those were the two main contentions I had, and I think off of those alone, I won. He tried to say that things that aren't abiding in classical logic can't be transcended. That's not true because, as I explained, there are dimensions such as the macroverse and Marvel, which are above a casuality, which actually says they can't. He's trying to say there's no basis, but this is the actual existence of the dimension in the verse. All right, what's your judgment, Sakazuki?
No,
Can
Sonic
Infinity-
14.
Infinity,
Sonic
can you give
14. Oh, Sonic
Infinity,
14. It's so
Infinity,
big.
Infinity,
Oh,
Infinity,
oh,
Infinity,
Censor,
Infinity,
Censor,
Infinity.
you want to step in?
Bro,
Censor.
oh my God,
It's so
Infinity,
big.
bro.
Yeah, so anyways, in
Infin-
conclusion, the reason why I believe I want to punish is because nothing he just said was actually adequate justification for why we can imagine logically impossible things. I said my definition of fictitious things would be an imagination would be synonymous. If that is the case, then something that's universally applied to all of imagination would be something that's universally applied to all of fiction. So the reason why I believe I want to point is because I was asking why it isn't the case that a universal application will be that the laws of logic are something that's going to be objective both in the fictional setting and IRL. He didn't give any argument. He didn't give any argument as to why this would be the case. So I do believe I want to point. So, anyways, I never denied that nomologically speaking, things are possible within the fictitious verse. What I denied by virtue of my beliefs is the fact that logically impossible things will be the case within a verse. He didn't give an argument as to why it would be the case. I also said that imagination is not going to be something that's limited to perception, but
You just conceded in your conclusion.
Anyways, can you please mute him? No, Sonic, stop. Anyway, so it would be the case that no car in 80s, if it is the case that he justified this point, which he didn't. I already explained why, even if he gives some type of justification as to why this would be the case, it would not be the case because he didn't justify what it would be true. So since we cannot demonstrate it visually, a logical impossibility, or for example, a circular square, we cannot visually conceive that or put it within a fictional setting, then you would have to make a statement about it. If it's a statement, the statement can't be wrong. So why is the case that the statement is true? He didn't give any justification for that. So there's once again no argument for why he won. He cannot win in any possible world. I gave rationale as to why my thing would be the case, which would be analogical arguments. I gave a hypothetical in which the author intends for X to be the thing. The author of verse, for example, if he creates Toxic Natsu verse, and then he creates characters such as Naruto and Goku, he intends for Goku to be Naruto, but in actuality, we see within the fictional setting that Naruto has direct descriptive counters towards Goku, and we see Goku beat Naruto on screen. What does that mean, Sakazuki? That means actuality contends and or contradicts intentionality. We take actuality over intentionality. He didn't argue against that. I also said a perception thing. Imagination is not limited to perception, but instead is limited to our knowledge, such as cognitive functions, such as creativity. So we don't have to perceive it of a unicorn, but instead we can conceive, we don't have to perceive of a unicorn, but instead we can perceive of the individual parts and use those individual parts to form our creativity of a unicorn. Therefore, we can visually conceive of a unicorn without perceiving this thing within reality. He kept on only trying to appeal to empirical bases. I said he didn't know what empiricism was. I said we can rationally justify these things, therefore we can go off of we can go off of rationalism. He didn't contend that. and other things. I said I don't care about what Socrates or whatever philosophical paper he proposed, which it probably wasn't even philosophical. I said that my friend Toxic is someone who produces philosophical papers, and we should accept him. If that is the case, he didn't give me an argument as to why it would be the case that his position would be justifiable. Therefore, I would just win the entire points. Since I can't track arguments and Tinsel was fucking me while I was making my arguments, then I forgot everything else. So you can go over the recording if you want, but go ahead.
The last thing I
you
want
said
to
you
say
wanted
is
to add one thing.
No. Also, I said it was tautologically impossible. Thank you for reminding me.
can you mute him? Okay, or
How
can
can you look
mute him, whatever? Okay. The last thing I want to say is that I explained that a character the uncontested Sakazuki. I explained that a character exists on the same level as the same concept of Femto, and his character is Master Chaos in Marvel. I explained that these two characters are on the exact same plane in existence because they both embody the same concepts and serve the same functions. And then I explained how there are characters in of that character. Again, Sakazuki, I want you to remember that my premise is that my character simply outscales his. I'm not trying to say that the logicalities that are applicable in Berserk. I'm simply saying my character scales higher within my respective verse, okay? He did not contend the fact that there exists a parallel to Femto in Marvel, and I asserted that numerous times. I even included in the recording during the debate that he didn't contend it. He contended even further. So no matter what, I think the debate is really over here now that we're in conclusions. I think he actually conceded overall that he never addressed the parallel that exists to Femto in Marvel and the fact that characters in Marvel scale above that parallel.
Okay.
Wait. So actually, I did respond to that point by saying that classical logic. Anyways, can you mute him, please, since I was so kindly interrupted and muted? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it is the case that I said classical logic is not something that's going to be verse dependent, but instead, if you don't justify why classical logic can be disobeyed in fiction, that entails it's a universal law. If it is a universal law, that you cannot disobey this thing. Therefore, your character being above some type of abstraction is logically impossible. I said that your character within the Marvel verse is shown to move, is shown to talk, it is shown to have spatial properties, which Sakazuki and everybody in chat can attest for me saying, except for that bitch ass nigga Toxic. I mean, not Toxic, what the fuck? Except for that bitch ass nigga Odd, and also Gesture, the Reaper, you shitty ass nigga. Anyways, except everybody in chat can vouch for what I just said, except for the people I mentioned. Therefore, his entire point would just be contradicted. So you can give judgment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did.
Hey, shout out to my nigga Bridge. Shout out to Bridge.
That's actually incorrect. The justification of fiction being able to violate classical logic, as I explained, is the translation of violations of
classical logic. What does that mean? Shout out to Clicksu, by the way. That's a question bag. Anyway,
okay. Infinity, you want to give your judgment?
Yes, I want to give my judgment. I believe
Infinity. Sorry.
Okay, so I will keep it up. Like I'm gonna do my best. Like I want you guys to find another judge after this. I'm gonna tell you right now.
It's the last point.
Like I am not suited to judge a crossverse today.
Last point.
But okay, so on this point specifically, right? Infinity. I mean, Oppo. Your point is that an author, since this is like their like fictional. Wait. Okay. No. The main thing. Infinity. When you said that you believe that fiction is just like the derivative of one's imagination or whatever.
Yeah, okay,
What's the basis? When Oppo asked you what the basis for that is, what was like your
Guess what I said? I said it's analytically justified. Do you know what analytical justification is?
Sure, explain it. Go ahead.
It's something that is true by definition. That's called the analytical statement. You have synthetic statements and analytical statements. An analytical statement is something that's true by definition. I said that I made the claim. He asked me to prove it or give me a basis. I said it's analytically justified. He didn't respond to that. And I asked him, even if I were to go by his definition, that is still not justification because you cannot show on a piece of paper a logical square, a square circle. If that is the case, that means you have to make a claim about it since you cannot show it like visually. If you make a claim, claims can be true or false. So why is it true?
But then didn't Oppo say that like this
wait,
did Oppo say that this like dimension he was referring to within Marvel is displayed like it was drawn?
Yeah, guess what I said to that? I said that cannot be the case. That's also logically impossible because when it comes to bro, can you mute? Like, shut up! I'm speaking to the judge. Bro, can you mute him, Sakazuki? Can you mute him while I speak to you?
Problem?
Can you mute him, Sakazuki? Can you mute him, Sakazuki?
Hold on, let me talk to him.
Okay, so one,
go ahead.
Yeah, so there's two things. One, I said that non-logical impossibilities are something that can be embedded. A dimension is not something that's logically impossible, Sakazuki. That's distinct from non-logical modal scopes. Also, once again, he tried to use an example of the infinitesimal shit. I said that's logically impossible because you cannot show or demonstrate visually an infinite being on a finite piece of paper. Therefore, it has to be a claim. And what did I say in response to the claim, Sakazuki? Why is the claim true? So, what is your judgment?
Okay, I'll mute Oppo for a second.
Sakazuki. I know you remember.
God damn, you begging for us, man.
Can you mute him now? Like you muted me. I know
Sure.
you remember my point, and I explained that fiction isn't bound to visualization. That fiction is literally meant to be separate from reality and meant to bend the laws of reality that can't be bent in reality. I explained this already. Fiction is not bootstrapped to visualization, and the only justification for that it's his personal belief. I've actually given evidence of my verse demonstrating these illogicalities, which means they would be applicable in my verse. And again, I'm not saying they're applicable in his verse. My premise is that my character outscales his.
Infinity, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, so, oh my God, I never said, okay, Sakazuki, I don't agree with the
Are we
premise.
just going to read debate?
Can you shut up? Anyway, Sakazuki, I never denied the premise at face value. I do believe that things within reality or things within fiction can contradict some things in reality. For example, nomologically speaking or epistemologically speaking. However, why is it the case that this thing is logically something that can occur within fiction? You can see that him making a claim that's literally a question bag. And when it comes to in perspective of the verse, that's presupposing classical logic isn't true. I already told you this, Sakazuki. Classical logic is something that's
it's not presupposing classical
bro, let
logic
me finish. Shut up. Can you mute him? Can you mute him? Respectfully? Can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Oh, okay, yeah, I might give a verdict after this.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, classical logic is something that is universally applied. So if there's a specific instance in which is defied, what does that mean? That means that universal application is disproven. Therefore, classical logic, by virtue of that, is something that is not true. So the specific within this instance will be the hypothetical Marvel, where they have contradictions. I'm asking, why is it the case that with Marvel, these things are actually contradictory instead of it being something that's intended to be the case? He gave no argument. All the examples he gave, I debunked. You cannot show an infinite thing on a piece of paper visually because a piece of paper is finite. If you make the claim, you have to justify the claim being true. You cannot show something that's logically impossible because that would be question begging. You cannot show a circular square. If you make a claim about a circular square, you have to justify the claim. You just went circular, my nigga. This nigga's ass. This nigga might be worse than Marvel.
So based off,
I didn't go circular.
Yeah, you can think that. Anyway, Sakazuki, give judgment.
Wait, you literally just conceded that Marvel just doesn't abide by classical logic.
Well, I said hypothetically. I said hypothetically under your argument. But anyway, Sakazuki, give argument. I give you judgment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, what's it called? Off of what I just heard, I'd give it to Infinity because
what?
Nigga, you suck.
Because Oppo, what he's saying, he's asking you why this thing would logically be possible. And the idea of that dimension, he's saying, what's it called? He's like, he doesn't disagree with that.
Sakazuki, I already explained that logic and reality is different from logic and fiction.
Wait, Sakazuki, what did I say in response to that? Did I not just say if it isn't classical logic, but instead they define logical impossibilities as a pig walking? Bro, shut up, bro. Sakazuki, can you mute him? Can you mute him?
Hold up.
What?
I'm trying to explain to Sakazuki just for understanding. I already explained how if the author gives a different description of what they deem to be logically impossible, then sure, it can occur in fiction. I'm asking, why can classical logic be disobeyed in fiction? Because for your character to be abstract, which will be a contradiction to my scaling or some type of opposing scaling to mine, it would have to entail a logical contradiction because abstract beings cannot move spatially, in which I said your character does that. You didn't tell me to prove it. You didn't tell me to prove that Toxic's philosophical papers were reliable. You didn't tell me to justify anything. Like, you just asked, nigga. Bitch ass nigga, hoe ass nigga. You look like a fucking Fredo.
Going on
nigga, you look like a
like we could
kill Infinity.
Wait, okay, Sakazuki. What did he dispute? What the counter to my argument where I said as long as it can be translated, right? As long as the idea can be translated, it's applicable to fiction. What was the counter to that?
What you saying that since it's the author?
As long as the idea can be translated into fiction, it's applicable to the author as full authority over the verse.
He's saying that this thing, since it would be a like you said, a logical contradiction, that whole idea that's what's in question. And you saying that, and then he's saying that the imagination, right, is correlated to this like fiction, and he's saying that if you can't like what's it called? If you can't prove that logical impossibilities can be put into fiction, then you're just begging the question by asserting that if they can just translate it, they can translate it.
Sakazuki, did I not prove it through proving that perception that we can't perceive the dimensional structures?
Okay, but with that,
Yeah,
right?
he
Like Infinity said,
translated into
you
fiction.
you provided that one source, right? Of like these fifth
Provided
dimensional
no
beings.
sources.
But I mean, what's it called? He brought up how like the different axes, and he explained how like you can just perceive these things moving in different directions. How you can perceive someone moving through time. Like, okay,
But
Infinity, I'll mute you.
Wait.
Sakazuki,
No, mute him.
wait,
I
I'm
brought up
I'm
multiple sources. Hold on. Chill, mute him.
Infinity, go ahead.
One, I gave 3 sources. One, I sourced Tossic's philosophical paper. He didn't ask me to send that, so I just cited it. Second, I used testimonial evidence that being Reaper Toxic, which he didn't put into question. And 3, I gave explanatory power, which you heard and just attested for, the axes. If this nigga thinks that we cannot visually conceive of a nigga going back in time, that is his fault. He didn't put it into question within the verse or within the debate. Toxic says he wants to say something.
Wait, no, hold on.
I'm not gonna
Oppo, go
lie.
ahead.
I'm not gonna lie. We can stop judging Sakazuki. You're being so disingenuous.
No. It's 2 judges.
If you're gonna take him citing Toxic's philosophical paper